the first time I ever like put something on the internet about a song I wrote about losing my biological dad to addiction was shocking. The amount of people that were like, I needed this, or I'm saving this to like come back to it because I'm like struggling with my own sobriety, and watching how that impacts you as like a daughter is a good reminder for me why I'm working so hard to be sober.
This is episode 3 of the Lifted Spirits podcast, where we raise some glasses, share encouraging stories and thoughts, and discuss how we find meaning through family, friendship, art, career, and everything in between. Today we have our first full interview with Tori Miller, who is a contestant on The Voice. So sit back and enjoy the conversation. Okay.
Can I pour myself some?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna get lit. No.
Yeah, seed lip. Got to have a product in there, you know. It's good.
Yeah.
And this stuff's really good. It is like, I want to say it's like $35 a pop, which is a little more than I'd
quite a bit
kind of go for average, but I really like what they're doing, and I've invested in some non-alcoholic spirits because I'm like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, it is.
There's you want to have something nice to drink, but you don't want to get all crazy.
Yeah.
So Seed Lip, and there's like Monday Spirit, and a few other ones that are, some of them are you're just kind of like, I don't know about this, man.
Well, most like non-alcoholic wines are trash. Like they taste like grape juice, but worse. I'm like, just pour me a wine glass of grape juice if we're going to do this.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're
They'll
trying.
get there.
Yeah.
And,
one day.
Yep. So we'll just roll.
Cool.
This is
Thanks for having me.
Podcast. This is Tori Miller.
What's up?
I think we just had some common friends in high school or something.
Did we?
I want to say. Or I don't even remember.
I just turned 30, so I'm like, I can't even remember high school at this point, but I remember you from, that circle of friends, like college years or like end of college.
And we didn't really hang out. We just sort of knew each other.
Yeah, in passing.
And because did you go to Shiloh?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I did.
And so we were the same class, but I was in Harbor.
Okay.
And
oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
did you have long hair at one point?
I did like 3 months ago. Like hair down to here.
Really?
I cut it all off.
Oh, okay.
It was like 29 inches.
Oh,
yeah.
That's insane.
So, and I had long hair in high school too for a bit.
I think if we knew each other in high school, I don't know why that rang a bell with me. I was like, wait, did you have long hair?
Yeah, there's only so many like long-haired, redheaded dudes with neck beards who can't grow it on the face. I cannot commit crimes. There's like such a small proportion of people if you're doing an interview. Like,
you'd be found out.
Yeah, so I had to cut the hair. That did a lot of stuff, you know. But yeah, tell us about you. Like, you are an artist, musician. Mm-hmm. What's your journey been like with that? Where did you start with music?
Started probably from the time that I could speak, is what my parents would say. Like, there's some home video of me wearing bandanas and like Band-Aids all over my body for fun. Like, thought it was like an artistic expression. You have children. You probably know like the fixation with Band-Aids is a thing. But I would get up on the fireplace mantle and sing. And they would pull out the camera and I would just perform. And it's just always felt like an extension of myself, where I feel most at home is in that like space of expression. So continued on, and there have been like some lulls, of course, and times when I'm like, am I made to do this? I don't really know, but I always circle back to it. So
when was the first time you remember going on a stage? I'm sure you did that a lot as a kid, but where you're like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, so my parents got me this bright blue, like electric blue Takamine guitar. And I mean, this thing had like the biggest body on it. It was bigger than me. And I learned 3 chords. And my dad always said, you can play any song if you learn G, C, and D. And I was like always infatuated with bluegrass and country music. So he was, right for the most part. And I got up on a stage for a singing competition with the guitar. And that is when everything changed for me. It felt different than like singing with backing tracks or like singing karaoke in my room. It was like, I just made this whole thing. Like, I'm playing for myself and singing, and like the way that those two things work together it was the first time I was like, I want to do this. I'm addicted to it. And I was probably like 11 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding it early.
Yeah. I attribute that to my parents because they were just like, okay, you want to do music? Like, you need to learn an instrument, at least be semi-proficient in something.
Wow.
I'm really thankful for that. So that'd be the first time probably.
Yeah, I'm really glad my parents made me do music too. But I did do violin lessons for 3 months or something and quit. And I wish my mom would have forced me to keep going because like, what else was I doing as a kid?
Yeah.
Nothing. And I could play the violin if I would have stuck with it. And now I can. It's like hard. I mean, I could learn again, but
it's not the same. I'm so jealous of my friends that play piano. They're like, well, my parents made me stick with it. And I was like, my parents let me quit.
Yeah.
That was the one instrument they were like, you know what? We're like tired of fighting with you about going to lessons. But yeah, I'm like, I wish you would have just made me do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did piano lessons and I would have quit. There were a lot of teachers at this studio that I was at, and there were a lot of teachers that I would not have gotten along with. But my teacher was incredible. She was this little El Salvadorian lady.
Amazing.
And she was always passionate about like finding music that I would enjoy and that I'd actually want to practice on.
Yeah.
And it just made all the difference in the world. And so just having that support goes a long way.
Yeah, the teachers are everything.
Mm-hmm. And who maybe are some of your mentors throughout time that have really influenced you?
Yeah, my first guitar teacher, I'll never forget, Larry Height. Shout out Larry. He's still like a legend and plays steel guitar for a band that just had like their Opry debut not long ago. But he gave me guitar lessons out of his living room. And it was the way that he taught. I would just bring in the songs that I was listening to at the time or the songs that I grew up listening to. Like, oh, I want to learn to play When You Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss because I love that song. And he'd be like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to play it the way that like is technically correct. And then I'm going to teach you the way that maybe like I would play this if I were playing it at a honky tonk. So I got like both sides and taught me like the number system. And so I just felt at ease at home. It didn't feel pressured at all. And it was really, there were some days I went in and I was like, I just want to record this Death Cab for Cutie song, but I want to do it like in my style. And he just like championed me in that, taught me the song, and then like set up recording equipment in his living room. And like, you know, I left with a CD of myself singing and playing that song. By far the most influential teacher I've ever had. And then my dad too, just like he's a guitar player and would play for me every night before I went to bed. Peter, Paul, and Mary, Simon and Garfunkel, and then George Strait. And that's where I learned to harmonize, is singing with my dad. And yeah, he pushed me to be a better guitar player too. Like, stop watching TV and go practice guitar. Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of artists that I've listened to all of their albums, but Peter, Paul, and Mary are one of them.
Oh, same. Yes.
So much.
Me too. I have like vivid memories of like my dad gave me all of his vinyl collection when I turned 15. And it's like the best day of my life. Like 200 records. And I sorted them all alphabetically on the ground and like set them up in the way that I wanted to. And he was a huge Peter, Paul, and Mary fan. So I like put it on, and I'll never forget like laying down on this stark white carpet. It was raining outside, like the best kind of day to hear Peter, Paul, and Mary for the first time. And yeah, Puff the Magic Dragon came on. It was one of their live shows. And I was just so deeply moved.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what this genre is. It's like not country and it's not bluegrass, but like some instruments and like intonation of both. And my dad's like, that's folk music. I was like, whoa, so, you know, whole new world for me. So
yeah, Peter, Paul, and Mary were so cool because they got on so many social movements like way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And now you can get on board of all sorts of things, and it's like, oh, but there's all these things like rolling. But they were like in the 60s, they were marching with Martin Luther King and playing songs and just ahead of the curve.
So cool.
Yeah. And yeah, folk music and bluegrass. I saw that Killers of the Flower Moon last week. The Martin Scorsese just made a new movie about the Native Americans, and it had a lot of bluegrassy folk type music. And I listened through some of your stuff on YouTube today. I was like, this is reminding me of the music.
Oh, sick.
Because it's just like very
love that connection.
like heartfelt and very not country, but I mean kind of, but like, you know, like not like Luke Bryan country or something.
Yeah.
And so how would you describe your music?
Yeah, I think I'm at like a 4-way stop, and it's like me, bluegrass, folk, and more classic country. Just a mixture of all of those things. I love like the storytelling of folk music, and of country music. And then like bluegrass, I just love that like juxtaposition between like playing these really happy chords and then singing about things that are like dark and depressing and sad. Always been drawn to that. Yeah, and just the history of bluegrass. That's like the world that I grew up in here in Arkansas. So it's always going to be like my home base. But yeah.
And do you remember one of the first songs that you heard growing up where you're like, that's it? That's like, it hits me to the core.
Yeah, probably. And I ended up releasing it this year as a cover, was There's a Time by the Dillards. They released that in the 60s. And it was when a lot was happening in the genre itself. And they like really stepped into the forefront and introduced some new ideas, both like lyrically and instrumentally. And I didn't know that at the time, like when I listened to the song, but it just moved me. And I, would inquire with my grandpa, who was an avid bluegrass listener, like did not listen to anything else. And he taught me like the foundations of that genre. And then I would say the other artist that moves me still to this day, Alison Krauss. I just remember like checking cows on the farm, listening to Alison Krauss, like crying in my bedroom, listening to Alison Krauss and not understanding why, like that goosebump, transcendent feeling. Yesterday when I was driving to Arkansas from Nashville, I put on like the Alison Krauss and Union Station playlist, and I swear like the hair on my arms were just up for like 8 hours, but it's like, yeah, it's always been something that deeply moves me and I connect with.
Yeah, that's how I felt recently with Hosier. Like everything he puts out just like hits me to my core. Yeah. Maybe it's some of the Celtic vibes and my roots or whatever.
There you go.
And chef kiss. And I had a question. So in the past like several years, what have been some of your highs in your music world? And then flip, what have been some of your lows?
I'll start with the highs. I guess it was like right when the pandemic hit, going through a lot like personally, and it felt like I was just gifted this opportunity to go on The Voice, and I never really felt like I had the personality for that, and it was certainly something that I had like gone for in my younger years, but at that point in my life I didn't foresee that as like a route I would take. And it was kind of like all the pieces fell into place for me to go and do that during the pandemic when musicians were making money. And so I flew out to LA, and like one thing led to another, and I lived there for 2.5 months and was able to be on Team Gwen. And it was like the most important thing I took away from that, and the most healing thing, is that it like rewarded like that inner child in me, like that little Tori that would watch these shows growing up and be like, oh, when I do that, I will have made it. Like that's not necessarily the truth, but in my mind, it just like honored her and was like, you can do really hard things. Like that was a moment for me that definitely counts as a high. And then I took a break from releasing any of my own music, and then released that cover of There Is a Time by the Dillards after 5 years of nothing. And it's done really well. It has been received really well. And it's kind of like changed the trajectory of what I want out of my career. So, those would be like the highs that come to mind. Now to flip that.
Before you get into it, I think you got like a hair in your mouth there.
Do I?
These aren't super up close, but There we go.
Is it gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
I appreciate the looking out.
I'm here for you.
The lows would be probably that inner struggle, like, who am I doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, the goal is to, like, create something that's, like, a breathing of what is happening inside of me, and that just translate with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that's not always the case. And when I put something original, like, on the internet or release a song and it doesn't do as well as, like, I would hope, that inner tension starts of, like, oh, well, you shouldn't have made, like, that mistake, like, in production, or you should have taken, like, a cleaner route, or, you know, just, like, all of these thoughts, or you shouldn't talk about sobriety or losing your dad to alcoholism, like, all of these things. And so I would say the lows would be those moments when I'm like, I can't do it anymore because I don't, it's like that constant rejection that inevitably happens when you take a chance and put yourself out there. But it can also go the other way.
Yeah.
And be really rewarded when people are like, you put to words exactly how I feel. So
yeah, it takes real guts to, like, put anything you've created out into the world. So, like, any artist I can respect of, like, you have created something that's meaningful to you and put it on display, and everyone is going to come at every angle, and there's always going to be haters, and there's always going to be fans, and I'm sure I've never been in the position where I've had to deal with haters, but I'm sure it's not easy, even just, like, reading comments on social media or whatever, people saying things, and you're like, why are you being so mean? Like, I'm just trying to do my thing.
Yeah. And then, like, the people that knew you at a certain time in your life and see you through a certain lens, and then you're like, I have to, like, I've struggled with feeling like I have to honor the way that people saw another, like, a season of me. And you have to, like, throw that out the window and just be like, no, like, I know who I am now. I know what I have to say. I have to step into that and own it and not feel badly like that I, you know, may upset people or disappoint people because I'm not who I was when I was 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my good buddies, Jarrett Seitz. Do you know Jarrett by chance?
So.
Okay. Well, he's always said that you don't know someone unless you know them right now, and which is just a really simple saying.
No, I love that.
But yeah, because you think of people from high school, or even people from college, or people from 3 years ago that think that you're the exact same way that you have been. And you do meet friends from time to time, and you're like, oh, you are exactly the same.
You have not changed.
But a lot of people change in like pretty dramatic ways. And so just trying to not judge people and take people for where they're at is a good rule of life. Yeah. And so what would you say, trying to think of, I've written down some notes. I should just check.
My allergies are so bad. Coming to Arkansas, it's like, hits me, please.
Okay, this is just more general.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be music related or anything, but what's just something really positive that's happened to you recently?
Was it bad that I'm, like, struggling to think of this? No. I think I have, like, I've developed a deeper appreciation of where I come from and my roots. It's like something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I think that I've taken for granted the closeness of my family, although we don't, like, share the same perspectives on everything. There's been, like, this natural return to home and to that being, like, my safe place. And that's a beautiful thing. Like, as a 30-year-old now, just being like, you know what I want? I want to go lay in my mom's bed and, like, watch a movie with her, like the simple things. So I found a lot of comfort and solace in that, which I think is a positive thing.
Yeah. And so, like, what are your roots? How would you describe that?
I mean, we live and grew up, like, always on land, always surrounded by nature and animals, horses in particular. So that's still, like, a huge part of my parents' life. And just simplicity. Like, my parents and my family, I was just raised to, like, I never wanted for anything, but we didn't have a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that now, the beauty of that as an adult, and being like, there was just never a shortage of love. I never felt like neglected or anything like that in my home. So I would say that's like probably the foundation of it all. What I was surrounded by. It's like less is more.
Yeah, for sure. I've felt the same way in recent years. We even had today's Thursday, so it was Tuesday. We had like a family Halloween party with all the cousins and the kids and stuff, and just looking around thinking like, man, I not only really like my siblings now and didn't expect to be friends with them at this age, but I really like their spouses too. And like all the kids are so fun, and the cousins are back in town, and my brother just got engaged and is moving back from Seattle. Probably, I'm putting that out into the world. Hopefully, he wants to.
We hope.
He wants to own a house, and that's not going to happen in Seattle. So, going to probably come out this way. And yeah, family. Just having good family sets you really far ahead in life.
Yeah, agreed.
And then, what would you say, like the meaning that music in particular gives to your life? How would you describe that whole dynamic?
I would say it's mostly a love, but it can sometimes be a love-hate, because I feel like my safest place on the planet is like a guitar in my hand and writing. When anything difficult happens, like I absolutely recommend therapy, and I love my therapist and see her very often, but like there's just nothing like stripping it back to the bare bones and being brutally honest with myself, knowing that like it's just me and you, like it's just me and this guitar, and I'm gonna write literally whatever I want, and whatever comes out I know is like just an honest breathing of what I'm feeling. And so that would be probably like the biggest gift that music has brought to my life, biggest influence.
And when is the time you can remember someone sharing how much your music affected them?
Probably, and it was surprising, the first time I ever like put something on the internet about a song I wrote about losing my biological dad to addiction was shocking. The amount of people that were like, I needed this, or I'm saving this to like come back to it because I'm like struggling with my own sobriety, and watching how that impacts you as like a daughter is a good reminder for me why I'm working so hard to be sober. That was a game changer for me. It like made me want to talk about the hard things, even though I knew there would be an element of that also like took sacrifice and like opening myself up to criticism from others, writing about a kind of taboo thing.
Yeah. And what are some of the songs, like the titles of those songs? People could go and look them up, like ones that have been the most meaningful to you.
I have one called Stoli, and it just kind of like transcribes a night where I like had to pull my dad out of a hotel after a bender. That was like the first one that I ever put out. And a lot of them are just like snippets of verses that I've written, like when it hits me, and they're all over my social media and stuff. So definitely have like a sober talk thing going on my TikTok. But
yeah, well, it's very needed. I had a friend who worked as a bartender, and this was 2017 maybe, and I was talking with him, and he said, Andrew, everyone our age that I know is either depressed, suicidal, or an alcoholic. And I thought, wow, that is kind of true, and it's really discouraging, and it's good to see like people coming out of that and having a positive story to share with people, like, hey, like life can be fantastic, even though we still got all these problems like cost of living and lots of other things, but yeah, like life is pretty beautiful, all things considered.
It is.
Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Okay, quick fire thing real quick. I have a list of fun questions, 1 to 99.
Let's go.
We're not going to do all of them, but just pick a few numbers.
Okay. 8.
8, okay. If there was a movie made about you, what kind of movie would it be? What would it be called? And what actor would play you?
Oh my, this is
So
like,
let's start one at a time.
all right.
What kind of movie would it be?
Some like noir, like kind of impromptu movie where it's just like cinematically beautiful, but the actors, it's like just like natural, conversation. Let them just like run with it. Like there's a movie, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it's about a long distance relationship, and most of it is improvisation, and it's like so beautiful. So I would choose that lane. Who would play me? I actually don't know. Let me say, okay, my boyfriend is obsessed with J-Law, so can I say Jennifer Lawrence? Because I feel like she would be epic, actually, at like an improv situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Thing.
Yeah.
And then what would it be called? Got to come up with some kind of title.
Let's say, I would like want it to be called like Rodeo Queen or like something like that, because that was like a huge part of my life, and it's definitely like bled over into my music. So we'll say, or like Well Placed Rhinestone. I like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Where did that come from? You just like lit out. It's way too poetic.
My first conversation, like when Gwen Stefani turned around for me on The Voice, she was like, there was some dialogue between her and Kelly Clarkson, and they were talking to me about being a rodeo queen. And I was like, well, I feel like Gwen and I will get along really well because we both love a well-placed rhinestone. And then my boyfriend, who is an incredible artist as well, he like wrote a song about that phrasing from the show, and it's called Well Placed Rhinestone Cowboy. So we'll say the name of the movie is Well Placed Rhinestone. I think that.
All right. Oh, I dig that.
Yeah.
And what is your boyfriend like? Is he a musician mostly, or other kinds of arts?
No, he's an artist, a musician. He plays like, he's just his own. Liam St. John is his name.
Say it again.
Liam St. John.
Okay.
Go listen.
Liam St. John. Go check it out.
It's like blues, rock, country. He's got like, yeah.
Yeah. And how did you two meet?
On The Voice.
Oh,
He
really?
was also on Team Gwen.
Cool.
Yeah, we ran in like the same little friend circle.
Okay, you got to tell like more of the story.
We sat down to, well, actually, like we met and started talking about our church trauma. And I was like, wow, this dude, like, I can't cuss, right?
No, you totally can.
Okay. I was like, this dude is the shit. Like, I want to talk to him more, but I like freaked out. And I was like, it's so nice to meet you, like bolted. And then we started running in like the same little friend group during filming of the show. And I don't know, it was just really natural. We did a write together. We both love murder ballads, writing murder ballads. So we wrote one.
Isn't that what every couple bonds over?
Yeah, absolutely. More than you would think. It's kind of crazy, but maybe that's just the Nashville in me. Like everybody writes murder ballads. But we love Bonnie and Clyde. So, not their actions. Do not condone. They were horrible people. But they're fun to write about and explore that world. So we just bonded over that. And then, the rest is history. Yeah. 3 years. So.
Okay. But where was the point where it was like, y'all are good friends to like, oh, this is more than friends?
Probably after for me, like, pretty instantly, honestly. I was like, I have my sights set on you. There was like that unspeakable like connection. And every time we talked, it was just natural. I don't know. I actually don't know that I can pinpoint a time. It really was the most natural thing, from just like going from being friends, joking around with each other, like low-key flirting, high-key flirting, like just, and then just together.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, you're like the love of my life. This is very cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And this is something I ask brides for interviews.
Yeah.
But like, what are some of the things you like about him? I'm sure there's 1,000 things, but just like throw out a few.
His determination and drive is like the coolest thing to me. Definitely the most attractive thing. He like knows what he wants. And also like that understanding. I just have like a freedom to be myself, and I'll be like, I don't know if I should write this or something, and or I don't want to offend anyone with this. And even recently he was like, it's your duty to share your perspective on things. And like, how cool to have like a partner that champions you like that. He's also super hot, so
That doesn't hurt.
it does not hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, it's like, I can't imagine my life with anybody else. So
Yeah. When people ask at various get-togethers, like, oh, when you're meeting new people, like, who's your wife? And I'll just be like, just look for the hot blonde. Like, what else is there to say? And there are so many piggybacks from that. I'm trying to think of where I wanted to go with that. But okay, yeah, flipping it, sort of, you kind of bragged on him some. And then, not that you have to brag on yourself, but one of the questions I really like to ask people is, what's something you're really proud of that you've done with your life, but that you don't talk about much? Like, you don't like wave a big banner about.
like an accomplishment or something?
Yeah, even if it's like a state of being, or like, whatever.
Okay. Well, I was a Miss Rodeo Arkansas in 2016, which was pretty rad. And I don't talk about that super often. I talk about the like Western culture and Western way of life and how much I love it. But that was like another one of those, like, I feel so proud of myself, like, for honoring that little Tori in me that just loved horses and loved watching the rodeo queens like do their flybys at every rodeo I could go to. That was cool. And I think something that stems from that is I've always strived to have like a quieter confidence and tried to be mindful. I always want to be teachable, and I always want to grow, and I always want to be open to like how other people, across the board view like my actions or my music, or like, maybe we could like make this better in this way or whatever. I just always want to be in a state of like learning and carry a quieter confidence and like assurance of who I am.
Yeah. I think like louder people can get things done, but it's almost more surface level. But those quiet, confident people, they just like pierce to the heart of issues and like make you sit with things. And I think that's, really powerful.
Something to aspire to, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I wanted to backtrack some too. So say your experience with The Voice, like what were ways that helped you, like being on something bigger, like how did that just affect you on the positive ways, the negative ways? Yeah, just the whole thing.
It like catapulted me into doing music again. I think I was always writing. There's never been a time in my life where I haven't been writing songs, but as far as sharing them with people, just being in like that culture of, like 100 to 150 artists that all have like really similar dreams. And there were people that were just like, I'll stop at nothing to get this done for myself. And I'm like, I'm allowed to feel that way? Like, I don't have to go out and get like a super practical job and like I can do what I love, and there are like-minded people out there. I hadn't seen it on that level before. So that was like a huge positive from the experience. And like, also there was like a very brief notoriety that comes from those shows, it's like, so it leaves as quickly as it comes. And there's beauty in that too, because it's really grounding and being like, okay, like the work really rests on my shoulders to get done what I need to get done. But that is cool. It's a cool moment to like sit in the living room with your family on the premiere night and watch NBC and be like, whoa, that's me. Like, that was cool. So, but then I guess, it was really humbling because you're surrounded by people who are on paper and just in general way farther along and more talent, or a different kind of talented, and have wider range and like more control and don't get nervous and all these things. It's really humbling in that way. I wouldn't say it was like a negative, but in the moment it feels like it for sure. You're like, oh, I suck. I can't do this.
I've never hardly ever been in any like contests or talent shows or anything, but anytime I have, it's just I I don't even get stuck in my head, like nervous in my head. It's like my body is nervous and it just starts freaking out. Even though in my mind, I'm like, I feel fine.
No, I fully get that. And I'm like, stop shaking. Like trying to command my body to like do what I want it to. Yes. Oh my God. I experienced that.
I legit had a Christmas piano concert when I was 12 or 13 or something. And I like couldn't figure out where I was, and I stopped playing, and I started trying to play again, and I stopped again, and I literally just had to stand up and say sorry and walk off the stage.
Hey, you know what? You owned it though. You didn't like cry. You know,
exactly.
It's okay to cry, but like,
yeah.
I love that response.
I'm probably never gonna be a performer, but I want to record music one day, just a little something.
Yes, do it.
And what kind of advice would you give to anyone who wants to just record something?
Do it.
Do it.
I mean, seriously, it's like I am the queen of having like my 10-step plan and like my color-coded calendar, and like we're going to be here in a year and here and a huge dreamer. And I was always raised in that environment, like yes, big dreams. But you got to like start somewhere and be okay with like starting small. So turn your iPhone, your voice memos on, you know, download the GarageBand app and sing into that, and add a little reverb, throw it online. Like you just literally have to take the first step and allow the universe to like repay that, you know, action.
I think it's going to be one of my 2024 goals to just at least record one song.
I love that.
It's really simple.
Yes.
I'm really good at like, if I have a goal and I state it and write it down, like I'm going to do this, and this year I've got 365 days, I can make this happen in that time frame. So I think, I'm going to do that. Let's make it happen right now. I'm committing. 2024.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm going to put something out into the world.
There you go.
And may have to get some tips from you, because I don't. That's part of the problem, isn't the tech part. Like I have no idea what's going on there. So it'll be really cool.
None of us do. That's like, we really don't.
Yeah.
It's just like you walk in and you're like, let's just try stuff, and it's like the beauty of it.
And so much is like the heart and the content. Things.
Yeah.
Even that one dude a few months ago who. Oliver Anthony put out the song, and it was, like the, little controversial song, but like it was very heartfelt in some ways, but like it was kind of neat to see someone just like, oh, this is like they're recording stuff on their phone and putting it out into the world, and it resonates with people for better or for worse, but like that's power, and it's so fascinating. And I really like the idea of like art as influence, and that kind of overshadowing maybe some of the lower arguments that we're having as people, and just like coming together over art and beauty and that sort of thing. And so what are things I guess, when things of beauty or things of truth for you, that when you've been in really low points in life, like really low points in life, that have brought you out of that slump?
Like what aspects of art? Or well, for one, the belief that art in general, for me, that looks like music most of the time, is infinite and exists like in this higher like realm. And so what you do with that, like it's literally endless. So no matter how low I've ever felt, it's like I can create something and it will lift me even like the tiniest bit. And I can chase that idea or that thought process or whatever as long and as far as I want to, and there's no stopping point. I love like that aspect of art, that we as people are like constantly creating, whether we realize it or not, and like that creation can happen like in the most mundane of ways, and just being like open to it is all that we have to do. That's probably at like the forefront of my mind when I'm in like those low places, and I make myself like get up and even write like 2 sentences down. It's just, it's something. So it's the smallest action that I can take to like help myself out.
And it's wild that humans make things that nothing else does. Like I know, not to downplay like whale songs and stuff like that, like animals sing stuff, but like animals don't, paint Picasso stuff or like make cinematic masterpieces or write these really heartfelt songs. And it's so weird, like, that we're just even here and can do that.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to zoom back in, like I get zoomed way too far out to like the universe.
Yeah, right.
Like, whoa, this is wild. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just like having a human experience, and it's humbling to know. And yeah, it seems like the art is where it's deeper than a feeling. It's not just like fluffy, but like something that you're really tapping into of like, this is what it's about. Like whatever all this is, like this is what it's about.
Yeah, it's that connection. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, do you want me to pick another number?
Yes.
I'm going to pick 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why that?
That's like number 8 is like my number, and then number 34 is Liam's number. And so, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
That one.
Well, this is kind of along the lines of some of what we were talking about. What is one of the most profound experiences you've ever had with a wild animal?
Oh, profound. I mean, I've been like just like brought to my knees on a spiritual level being around horses. Like that was the other side of my upbringing. That was just like this magical. I think back and I'm like, I had the coolest childhood. I got to like play music and was encouraged to write. And then if I was angry or I had like a bad day and needed like an escape, I never like really fit in growing up because I always had that like little artistic bone that, you know, some kids have and some kids, well, all kids have, but I just wanted to express it all the time. Was going out into the pasture and saddling my horse and riding like those emotions out, and feeling that connection with an animal is like pretty profound and a gift that I don't ever want to take for granted. Yeah, so lots of profound moments with horses for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like horses are a
beast.
Yeah, a whole nother thing. I've hardly ridden them, and the first time I ever did, the horse that I rode, its name was Killer.
Oh,
and so it was not a great experience.
Oh, man.
But I don't like project that onto other horses.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a lot of cool horses out there, and I love the idea of riding horses.
Yeah,
I just haven't gotten around to it.
you will put that on your list for 2024
Okay,
too.
yeah, more to put on there. And I guess just any like final thoughts you'd want to put out into the world of like all things, your music, your art, you're just like something that you've been thinking about a lot lately, like, hey, we need to be paying more attention to this, anything.
Let's like lead with love and kindness, you know? Like I'm trying to like put on love every morning. It's weird and cliche, odd as that sounds.
No,
but
not at all.
There's a scarcity and a need for that. I'm always saying that. Yeah, I've got new music on the horizon for 2024. 2023, feel like I dipped my toe and I'm pleased. And now I'm just like addicted. And I'm like, what's next? What's next? What's next? So we've got like a roster of some good bluegrass, traditional bluegrass with some different like Tori lyricism coming out in 2024. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, that's exciting.
Tori Miller music everywhere.
Yeah, we'll put links down below to everything and get you hooked up. And thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. Cheers to this.
Yes.
It really is.
It really is. Good. Yeah, these are really good. Again, a little above my price point, but like it's totally worth trying.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so see you next time.
Thanks for having me.